Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hybrid Athlete Dad podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to be going over supplement strategies for the Hybrid Athlete Dad. Now, before we get into today's episode, if you listened to some episodes before, I just want to go over a little bit about what's going on in my personal life, how training has been going, before I really start to do a deep dive into today's episode. So, with this week, what's going on is I have my marathon coming up on this Sunday. I believe that this episode is scheduled to go out early November, so that by the time that this episode releases, I would have had run my marathon. I'm going to do a full marathon recap episode, which, if I scheduled it correctly in my notes, should be going off the previous week. But for right now, to give you an idea, I'm just basically doing a simple taper this week. Last week I did 4 miles, 6 miles, 4 miles, 14, 4. I didn't necessarily have a plan going to this marathon, other than my plan is to go in and make sure that I finish it without having to stop. So hopefully in the previous episode you heard that I didn't have to stop and I did a great job and I finished the marathon. This week is just a quick little taper. Recording this in early October, so looking at about a month out from when this episode is released. So right now, this week for my training, again, just doing a taper, doing 2 miles on Monday, 3 miles Tuesday, 2 miles Wednesday, and then taking Thursday, Friday off, and then doing a 1 mile shakeout run on Saturday. I'll still be strength training on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for my regular workouts. And in one of our previous episodes, I have been doing strength training 5 days a week, but I ended up just cutting off one day because I felt as though it was just a lot to strength train 5 times in addition to doing this marathon running and doing this marathon prep. So I ended up just cutting back a day. And then once the marathon prep is done, I believe what I'll end up doing is I'll probably take Monday off from just, maybe I'll go out and do a short little run because the marathon's on Sunday. And then on that Monday, maybe go out and do a 3 or 4 mile run just to work out some of the lactic acid. And just overall, I find that when I run long distances, like when I do my 20-mile run, if I run 3 or 4 miles the next day, my legs feel a lot better. They're not as stiff. And then I'll probably take that Monday off from weight training, and then I'll go working out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then the following week is when I'll jump back into those 5 strength training days. So pretty excited to get the marathon out of the way, pretty excited to run it, see how all my training that I've been doing has paid off. I didn't really follow a formal training plan other than the fact that I ran 13 miles. And then now I'm looking to go out and run the marathon, and then, increasing my mileage from 13 to 14 to 16 to 18 to 20, and then running 5 times a week, upping that from 3 times a week. So hopefully you heard all of that in the previous episode. If you haven't, please feel free to check that out. But want to give you the update for where I am right now when I'm recording this episode. Something else that I recently did in the past week is I had a Fitbit, and the Fitbit was fine. I've had one for probably 4 or 5 years. I've had to replace it a couple of times, which was fine. They were maybe $100, $150, the ones that I was buying. But I found the issue with it when it came to running was when I would be running, my paces would be very off. So to give you an example, I would run and it would show me an 8-minute pace, and then I'd look down at my watch and it would be a 12-minute pace, then a 14-minute pace, then a 6-minute pace, and it was pretty much all over the map. So I never had 100% idea exactly what my exact pace was. So what I would do, as an example, if I was running 14 miles, in my mind, I'm like, I'm probably going to be pacing at about 10 minutes a mile just based on how I run before. So I know if I run 14 miles, that's going to be 2 hours and 20 minutes. So I would either A, run the 2 hours and 20 minutes if I hit the 14 miles, or sometimes the watch I feel as though it would be really slow and saying I was running 11.5-minute pace, and I would just deal with it, and maybe I run 227, or maybe I run 234 instead of 220 to make sure I hit that 14-mile mark. So I'd always make sure that I'm hitting that 14-mile mark. But if I hit that 14-mile mark at 2:10, I would still run another 10 minutes. And that's how I had been doing it. It really wasn't that helpful on the bike. The times were very off. When I tried swimming with it in a pool and tracking it, it froze my watch, and I ended up having to replace it because it ended up breaking. So it wasn't too good of an experience. And I noticed that a lot of folks in the hybrid athlete space and within the fitness industry. They use the Garmin Forerunner, or not Garmin, but just Garmin in general. And what I ended up using buying was the Garmin Forerunner 965, and I found that has been very helpful for me. I had waited a little while to buy it. The price was $499, then jumped to $599. I believe I was able to get it for $550. I ended up buying on a gift card. I basically just racked up credit card rewards points for a year, had about $300 worth of points for my business, and just used that, put that towards it. So it ended up being like $130 out of pocket. So I didn't, that was one. I was just waiting to get that because it is definitely pricey buying the watch. I believe I bought it for $550 and then it ended up being $130 out of pocket after having all the rewards points for my credit card saved up. I honestly think it was longer than a year. It might have been 16, 18 months. But so far, the watch has been very good to use, and I would recommend it if you're someone that can afford it, or if you're someone that wants to save up for it. I've only had it since Friday, recording this a little bit after that, and only had a couple of runs with it, and it's been good so far. I really like the pacing. I like that it tells me my recovery time. It tells me my VO2 max. It gives me a morning report after I sleep. I'm assuming that there's probably a ton of features that I haven't even figured out. I use it in the gym, started using it, and it can help me with my rest time. It can track how many sets, how many reps, how much weight I'm throwing around in the gym. It's been very beneficial, but I'm really looking forward to being able to use the Garmin while I'm running my marathon, because I find that the pacing times, and I've only ran with it twice, but so far each time the pacing times have seemed to be pretty accurate from what I thought in my mind. I find that it's very reliable, so I'm really looking forward to it. And again, I bought the Garmin Forerunner 965, so far for me, I really enjoyed it. So I just want to make a mention of that. It is nice to get a new piece of equipment to use. I find that when it comes to, especially being in the triathlon space, even the running space, everything can be expensive. So I find that I have to space out how often I'm buying, whether it's new shoes or a new watch or a wetsuit or a bike. It can definitely get expensive over time, but this is one purchase that I'm glad I made, and I wish I would have just made it a little bit earlier, especially for the swimming aspect of it. When I had joined a triathlon club and I was swimming, I wish I could just see my stats, my heart rate, and check everything, but now that I have it, so it should be good going forward. And the last thing that I want to mention, and if someone's looking for a good read, and for those watching on YouTube, you can see the book over my shoulder. And for those who are just listening to the podcast on iTunes or Spotify, I've been reading this book called Square One, and hopefully I can pronounce the gentleman's last name correct, but first name is Dirk Vlieks. I believe that's how you pronounce it, so Dirk, and I believe the last name is spelled Vlieks. And I had happened to been in Mystic, Connecticut, and I had taken my daughter down there with my wife and our in-laws for a few days while her daycare was closed for the week. And we had gone downtown, and I noticed that there's a bookshop. And I always like just checking out bookshops and just buying new books and obviously reading them. You can tell I have quite the library behind me for those watching. And I came across this book, and I noticed the front, basically the pictures in the front of the book where this gentleman, Dirk, had ran Ironmans, and that's something that I'm interested in doing myself, so I ended up buying the book. And long story short, the book has been wildly fascinating in the sense that, not to give it all away, but Dirk, he had done Ironmans, full Ironmans, half Ironmans, and he was doing a half Ironman in Hawaii. Long story short, he ends up having a stroke, and it's just all about his story on how he came back from that stroke and how he got back into doing these triathlons and running. And I'm about halfway through the book, but I find it's very inspirational, his mindset and what it took for him to get back to, and I don't know if you could call it any sense of normal, but his sense of normal of what it was like to go through this event to now trying to get back into being an athlete and something that he had pretty much known for quite a while. And he was relatively young when he had that stroke. I believe he was 32 or 33. It's definitely very young. I mean, anyone that has a stroke, that's not going to be good for anyone, but definitely if you're younger, that's That's definitely scary. It's pretty crazy to read, but if you're looking for a good book that I don't think that too many people know about, and you're just looking for some inspiration, I highly recommend that book. And again, it's called Square One, and the author is Derek Fleeks. I looked on Amazon. I believe you can get it on Kindle. I'm not sure if you could purchase it, but I'm assuming you look hard enough on the internet, you'd be able to find somewhere to purchase the book. Now, hopping into today's episode of Supplement Strategies for the Hybrid Athlete Dad, when I was thinking about how I wanted to best structure this episode, I figured it would just be helpful if I just went through all the different supplements that I take, why I take them, and just lay it out as simple as that. And with these supplements, I should say, I don't take all of them in one day. That would be way too many supplements given in one day. I'll go through and I'll explain the ones that I take more often, the ones that I only use here and there, the ones that I don't really need too much. But that's how I wanted to structure this episode, was just really go through the supplements that I take. And even when I say supplements, I could be talking about protein bars and protein and different things like that that I just wanted to go over with you and make a mention of. So just hopping right into it. First thing in the morning when I get up, when I go to the gym. So if it's a typical week and I'm not in marathon training, we're talking Monday to Friday, I'm going to take a scoop of endo pump and I have a scoop of creatine, and I mix that in a shaker bottle. I buy the endo pump and I buy the creatine directly from Bear Performance Nutrition. Actually, you can also buy it through Amazon as well. I like buying it through Amazon just because sometimes I don't need to buy so many products. I don't necessarily want to pay for shipping. I have Amazon Prime, so I'm able to get them shipped without having to pay for it. But I find the endo pump has been very good for the endurance. As I started to do more hypertrophy training, so I do 4 sets of 10 to 12 reps versus doing 4 sets of 2 to 3 reps, where that's more building strength, where I'm trying to build more definition by doing this hypertrophy training and just needing a little bit more endurance. And then also the creatine, I find that helps me just continue to build strength, and just getting the creatine is something that I like to take every single day of the week, not just Monday to Friday or Monday through Thursday like I am right now. If I'm just throwing those two in and then just putting them in a shaker bottle. For the endo pump, I've tried a lot of different flavors. Right now, I've tried the blue raspberry, the pink lemonade, and there's one other one, maybe prickly pear. I'm not sure if that's an electrolyte by them or not. I can't recall, I should say. But right now, I really like the pink lemonade flavor, and then the creatine, there's no flavor to it. So if you just want to throw it in water and shake it up, you could do that as well. And I find that the creatine just helps absorb a little bit more water, helps add a little bit more muscle mass. Maybe it's not the best to take while I'm running a marathon, because I don't know if I need all this extra water weight, but I'm more focused on strength than I am on cardio at the moment. So I'm going to keep on with that creatine. And like I mentioned, I like to take the creatine every single day of the week, Monday through Sunday, just to make sure that on the weekends I'm not losing any progress. Now, when it comes to other supplements, such as protein shakes, so I do it 2 different ways, where I take on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll typically have Orgain protein shakes. So these are already pre-made. They're like the little plastic bottles that you see. You might see a protein shake come in, or I don't know if it's plastic, more cardboard, I would say. But I like to buy them at BJ's. I get like an 18-pack for $35, and that lasts me about 6 weeks of using those. And I find that those are very good. Right now, they didn't have those at BJ's, and I'm taking, it's called OWYN, OWYN, only what you need protein shakes. Those ones have been fine. Not really a fan of the flavor. Hasn't really tasted that good. So once I'm through those, I really hope that BJ's will have those Orgain protein shakes back in stock, and that way I can start taking them again. And then besides the Orgain protein shakes, so again, I take those on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and typically Saturday and Sunday, I like to take Transparent Labs whey protein. And I was looking at different proteins that were out there, and I really like the Transparent Labs whey protein. They have it's high in whey protein isolate. And I can't remember the exact reasoning, but I remember when I was working with my nutritionist, she recommended that I try to find protein that is high in whey protein isolate, not just whey protein. And again, I wish I could recall when I was working with her the reasoning behind that, other than she told me, hey, it's better if you have whey protein isolate than whey protein. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go do and until I'm just going to follow you. You're the nutritionist. I'm hiring you. I'm going to take your advice. So I really like the Transparent Labs. I like the French vanilla. And when I make my shake, on the weekends, I'll throw in the creatine, but during the week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'll throw in a banana. I'll throw in a little bit of peanut butter. I'll throw in some ice cubes, and then I'll throw in some almond milk in there as well, and just blend it up, make a protein shake, and that tastes delicious. Another product that I like from Transparent Labs is their casein protein. So I find that if I need a little bit more protein, if I'm a little hungry at night, maybe I had a little dinner, maybe I'm just hungry for whatever reason. So I like to buy the casein protein. I bought it in this big giant tub. I got the chocolate flavor. And what I'll do is I'll put a scoop of that in a bowl. I'll put about 2 to 3 ounces of almond milk, maybe 4 ounces, blend it up, and it almost makes like a mousse chocolate filling. Just absolutely delicious. And I'll cut up some strawberries and I'll throw them in a bowl from there. And I find that that keeps me satiated. And it's very good to have this casein protein before you go to bed because it's going to take longer to digest, which is nice. So I really like that casein protein from Transparent Labs. So those are the two products that I buy from Transparent Labs. And it's been really nice because the gym that I go to, they have Transparent Labs whey protein. I don't know what you call it, bottles, or I don't know if you'd call it bottles, but tubs of protein. I'm not sure the exact terminology, but they have the tubs of protein there. We're able to go through and buy them at my gym, which is nice because anytime I'm getting close to running out, I can just buy them there and I can take it home with me. So that's an added benefit. But I really do like the Transparent Labs. I find that they're one of the better proteins out there. I haven't tried too many. I just found one. I liked it. I stuck with it. Makes me feel good. I don't feel too bloated. That was been some issues in the past with other proteins where I don't get that feeling. With Transparent Labs, I did feel a little stomach ache, but what I have been doing is I've been doing 2 scoops of protein in. Once I cut that back from 2 to 1, I felt as though I was perfectly fine. And I think at that point I was just getting too much protein in a day. I mean, I was getting like 275 grams of protein in per day, which I think that just might be that might be a little bit much for someone that's 170, even if I wanted to go 1.5 times my body weight. I mean, we're looking at what, 290-ish or 260, at least somewhere around there. If my math is or 255, if my math is correct. That's just 275 was a bit much, but I don't have that all the time. I maybe had that once or twice a week, depending on how hungry I am, depending on when I eat and what's going on, but I like having that there just in case I need it. Similar to the casein protein, just in case I need it, I like to have protein bars on hand. So the protein bars that I like are the Think, pretty much as you spell it. I think it might have an exclamation point where the I should be, but Think protein bars, and then I'll use the Robert Irvine Fit Crunch bars, and I just use those as needed. They taste very good. Maybe they're not 100% the best for you, but I spend all this money on protein and on these other supplements like the endo pump and other supplements I'll talk about in today's episode. I find that those 2 protein bars are good enough for me. Probably the best overall protein bar I came across was Atlas bars. When it just came to the ingredients in it and the overall health of the protein bar itself, I found that I bought mint chocolate chip, and I believe it might have been peanut butter, but I found that the taste wasn't that great. It was very dry, so I ended up just going back to the Fit Crunch bars and the Think bars. And same thing, when I'm taking those protein bars, I might have it maybe once or twice a week on the Think bars, maybe 2 to 3 times a week on the Robert Irvine Fit Crunch bars. And I try not to take them too often. I'd rather get my protein either from the Transparent Labs whey protein, the protein shakes, and not so much from the protein bars if I can help it. But sometimes I might just be hungry later in the day. Maybe sometimes I just want to have it with my snack, and I'll buy those protein bars So I recommend checking those out. Now, besides the protein bars, something that I may take depending on how hard my workout was, is I like to take recovery from BPN, so Bare Performance Nutrition, the same company I buy the endo pump from and the creatine from. And I like to buy the recovery. In a nutshell, it's just amino acids where the goal is that it's going to help me recover quicker than if I hadn't been taking them. And I like to reserve it for when I have a really hard workout or when I'm still feeling a little bit sore the next day. Again, I don't have it all the time, maybe 2 to 3 times a week on the recovery, and I'll take that. I find I might have the watermelon, or I think it's watermelon flavor, maybe strawberry flavor. I just know that it's red and it tastes good when it's in my shaker bottle. So I recommend checking that out if you're just a little bit sore and you're really pushing yourself and you just need something a little bit just to help you out. Now, besides the recovery, I also take, on occasion, G.1.M Sport from Bare Performance Nutrition. Now, the G.1.M Sport is basically a mixture of carbs and electrolytes. So before my marathon, I'll be taking that. If I know I'm going to be doing like a brick workout or I'm going to be doing biking and running, I know that I'm going to be taking that. So I used to take it quite a bit. I've cut back a little bit on it because I'm not doing as many of the triathlon training. So now I'm doing more marathon focused. And when I'm doing these long runs in the morning, I'm usually getting up and I'm just going out the door. I don't want to sit and drink a bottle of G.1.M Sport because you need a good amount of ounces to get it down. It's quite a big scoop. You need about 14 to 16, and probably 16 to 20 ounces to get it down. So there's quite a lot of bit to it, but I find that when I take it, I feel more energetic. I really enjoy it. So I kind of save it for either race days or I save it for when I'm going to be doing those brick workouts. If I don't want to be biking then running, or swimming then biking, biking then swimming, whatever it may be. So I'd recommend checking that out from BPN. Now, what I do take is when I'm on my long runs, and I'll take throughout the day, depending on how much I sweat, but is the electrolytes from BPN. So again, Bare Performance Nutrition, I like their electrolytes. And when I'm on my long run, I have a hydration vest. So I have 2 different bottles on basically each shoulder, each side of my chest. I'll throw a scoop of electrolytes on each side and then fill it up, and it'll be about 16 ounces of water in each bottle, and then I'll run with that. And I find that getting those electrolytes in is just very beneficial. You're sweating a lot, you need to replace these electrolytes, and I find that is very beneficial for me, especially when I'm on these long runs, being able to have 2 scoops of these electrolytes. So I recommend checking those electrolytes out as well. Again, that's going to be from Bare Performance Nutrition. Very beneficial electrolyte. Now, besides the electrolytes, another product I like to use from Bare Performance Nutrition are their Go Bars. And I'll use this before I go out on my long run. I'll use this when I'm going out and doing a marathon. And I do like to have it before. And their Go Bars are just basically give you a ton of carbohydrates. That's really all I'm looking for, is I'm looking for those carbs before I'm going out there and doing these runs. So I'd recommend checking out their Go Bars as well. So there's quite a bit of products that I like to purchase from Bare Performance Nutrition. But the main ones that I use on a weekly basis are going to be the endo pump, the creatine, and then the electrolytes as well. And then I'll mix in the recovery, the G.1.M Sport, and the Go Bars there as well. I don't use those all the time, but I really do like their products. I like the brand. I like what Nick stands for. So I highly recommend checking them out. Now, when I'm also going out there and doing these runs, I like to use the Honey Stinger gel. I was looking into purchasing the BPN Go gels that they had. Not so much of an issue, but I've been taking these Honey Stinger gels and they've been good. And I just started off with them. I'd never taken a gel before. And as I started to get into the nutrition aspect of it when running these marathons, realizing I might need this additional help and starting to take them, I realized maybe I should go with the Go gels, but I have been training all along with these Honey Stinger gels. So in my mind, I was just gonna continue to take these Honey Stinger gels. I'm so far into my training at this point where now I'm tapering. Like, I don't want to start and try a new gel a week before my marathon or 2 weeks before my marathon. I've been training pretty much for a long time with these honey stinger gels. I believe I get the strawberry smoothie flavor. That one's fine. I take it every 30 minutes when I'm out there doing my long runs. So I like taking those. I buy them on Amazon. I find that's typically going to be your most affordable aspect, where I get 24 of them for about $36, so about $1.50 per pack, similar to what I'd buy if I was going to like my local Target, but I just get them shipped to my house and they'll last me a month or two, depending on how many long runs that I do during the month. And then besides the honey stinger gels, when I'm doing more of those triathlon workouts that I was describing a little bit earlier, I'll use honey stinger waffles, and I just get their typical honey stinger waffle, whatever their typical one that they have. And I like taking those. They have about 140 calories, but I'm just looking for a little bit of carbs, a little bit of sugar, where I know I'm going to be going out there and working out for quite a bit. So I also recommend the honey stinger waffle as well. I haven't had one in quite a while just because I'm not doing those triathlon workouts where I'm taking more of those honey stinger gels right now. But I know once I'm done with the marathon and I start doing the running, or I start doing the biking and the swimming again, then I'll be using those honey stinger waffles again. But I recommend checking them out. Now, the last sort of protein aspect that I have, and again, whether you want to call it a supplement or just something to help myself out, I like to use Go macro bars. And the big reason for the Go macro bars is I like the amount of calories. There's about 290 calories, so anywhere from 250 to 300 per bar, depending on which Go macro bar that you have. And I like to use that a couple times a week after my runs. So I'll usually go through a box of 4 of them during the week, and I'll use it on my runs. And I find that just getting those extra calories in, where I'm training so much, where I'm doing the strength training and I'm doing the running, I'm trying to get an additional calories in any way that I really can without having a ton of fat. And some of the bars might have a decent amount of fat. We're talking 10 to 15 grams of fat in them. But I find that just for the calorie aspect of it, where I can have almost 300 calories in this little bar and use it as a supplement to this running, I really find that to be beneficial. And besides the Go macro bars, some of the vitamins that I take, and I pretty much take them every day. So I take a vitamin D supplement. That was something that was recommended to me by my nutritionist for living in New York, where during the winter months, we don't get that much sunlight. Most days are just gray and overcast. So that's going to help with the vitamin D deficiency that we typically get in the Northeast, especially in New York. I take a daily multivitamin. That's just something just to continue to get vitamins in. My coach had recommended that. And besides that, I take a probiotic and prebiotic just to help with my digestive system. So I use Olly, Olly. I find that that's been very beneficial for me for just anytime I have a stomach problem. And I find that taking that probiotic, prebiotic really helps that to go away. Or if I have a stomach problem and I already taken it, if I take it the next day, it really does help me. And then the last part is just taking fish oil. I buy Nature Made fish oil, and I just like it for the omega-3 fatty acids, just because I don't eat that much fish. On occasion, I'll have salmon, but that's not too often. I really did like to used to get salmon quite a bit from BJ's. And if you don't have BJ's and you're not sure what I'm talking about, it's just basically a big store where you can buy a lot of things in bulk. And I would buy salmon, but then what they started to do is they would buy salmon and then they started to put the skin on it. And I just don't prefer my salmon with the skin on it. I just don't enjoy it. I just want it to be skinless. And then I went to a local fish store near me, or fish market, that sold salmon, bought the salmon, brought it home, no skin on it, was excited to try it. Tried it, there's tons of bones in it. That really grossed me out. So I had to take a break from salmon for quite a bit, especially when you find quite a bit of bones in them. So stop taking salmon. But so just looking for other ways where I can get my omega-3 fatty acids, and it's by taking those supplements there. And I take the vitamin D, the multivitamin, the probiotic, prebiotic, and the fish oil supplements. I take those every day. The endo pump every day. The endo pump 5 times a week. Creatine 7 times a week, and then the protein shakes and the protein bars and all the other supplements like the recovery and the G.1.M Sport, the electrolytes, Go Bar. Mix those in throughout the week depending on what I'm looking for my performance. And again, I don't take those all in a given day. I think that'd be way too much, but just wanted to go through and walk you through the different supplements that I take, maybe give you some ideas of how you could benefit your performance. Because when I was starting off, I didn't know what supplements to take. I wish I had known earlier, but it's better late than never. So that's really my supplement strategy that I use as a hybrid athlete dad.